Hello everybody, Demon Red Mist here, and I'm going to try and show a few bits about Cirque de la Sarthe for the upcoming DGT race in the Mazdas. Cirque de la Sarthe is obviously it's a long track, but it's not the most difficult of tracks in this particular car, given that this car is not the fastest. But there are a few things that as a driver you could do around this place that will make this an extremely difficult place to drive. Now, one of the things I want to mention is trying to not go down to second gear. So try and avoid going down to second gear if you can, but there are a couple of places where you're going to need to go second gear. Also, in the process of learning the track, from the start finish line, break up the circuit. So from the start finish line until after the next right hander, focuses that as one whole section, and then the long straights as the next section. Now there is a main thing that I want to kind of point out as I'm making my way around here, and that is that technically the edges of the track are these white lines. However, I go over them, many people do. You can use that part of the road, but if you're losing control of the car when you're braking, it may be because you've got two wheels over the white line. That's a dirty part of the road, so when you bang the brakes on, the car doesn't grip properly. It might not do it with me being at this speed, no, because I wasn't going very fast there. It's not under pressure, but if I'd have been full speed with my wheels over the white line, I could have got twitchy under braking. Now, it might not always happen, but when it does happen, you'll know about it, because it'll just all of a sudden try and spin you. And it's the same down all of the big straights for the braking zones. Now, the braking point for each of these big corners is about 150 meters, and I'll point something out on this one, and it's the same for the first chicane as well. At this track, because you're going so fast, you don't get brake marker boards every 50 meters, you get them every 100 meters. So you need to keep an eye out for these. You've got the 300 meter marker board, the 200 meter marker board, which is a little harder to see, which means that the next one is 100, but we want to be braking around about 150. So the way I'm doing these corners is I'm looking for, ignoring everything else, I'm looking for that 300 meter marker board, because if you miss that and you think the next one you've seen is actually the 300, you're 100 meters too late. Okay, so make sure you spot those 300 meter marker boards, because then you can. I basically go 3, 2, brake. That's how I'm doing this particular section. Now, I can brake with my two wheels over the white line, but it gets a little bit twitchy and it's unbalanced on the way in. Whereas you can not put your wheels over the white line, brake much safer, but you do make the road a little narrower. Personally, there's more stability on the brakes is better. Now, for the kink down here, well, it's not really a kink, well, there is a kink before the corner. Without a car in front of me, I know, just to point out, 300 meters, 200 meters. Now, the 100 meter marker board is here. Oh, excuse me. The 100 meter marker board is there, but it's not 100 meters from here until the actual hairpin. It's 100 meters from here to the kink. Now, as I was about to say, if I'm on my own, then I'm basically getting to the apex of this curb, and then I'm on the brakes. This is about 100 meters away from the hairpin. Now, if I stay on the tarmac, I can brake there, no problem. Second gear for the hairpin. But like the rest of the track, if you put two wheels over here, over the white line, it's going to get unstable under braking, and there is a big chance of it spinning. Personally, I'm taking this hairpin in second gear at the moment, with the aim of hopefully taking it in third gear, but second is absolutely fine. If you are in slipstream though, approaching that hairpin, lift off and brake before the kink, otherwise you're not going to make the corner. Okay, these straights are very simple, flat out, but remember, the straighter your wheel, the faster you go. So try not weaving around, moving around or anything like that. Now, lovely section of corners for me personally. This turn in, brake on the curb, gone a bit wide there, but you can brake at the curb and make this corner. You can do it in third gear, if need be do it in second. Don't brake late here. Just to point out, I know a lot of people tend to try and like braking at the start of the curb. Just to point out though, what's this brake marker board say just there? Oh, 50 meters. Right, so if this is 50 meters, then that's 25 meters. That's why you don't make the brakes. So make sure you're on the brakes before that curb. Again, second gear hairpin there. Okay, for the Porsche curves and for the remainder of the circuit, you can use fourth gear a lot, but it will burn up quite a bit of fuel, or you can use fifth gear to try and not burn up as much fuel. Not that it's going to make a big amount of difference, but you'll be approaching the Porsche curves in fifth gear on the left hand side of the road, and then I've just gone past it, the patch of AstroTurf, which is difficult to see, to be honest, in this car, just on the left there. Right, as you get up alongside the patch of AstroTurf, as that's about to finish, dab of brake, and you go from fifth down to fourth and wait on the throttle until you've got to this point and you know that the car can make it round the corner. You'll know if you're going to make it or not, because you're either going to be in this position feeling like you can get around the corner, or you're going to be sliding over here already. Okay, so it'll be very noticeable. But you can, if you want, hold fourth gear all the way through these next 4 or 5 corners. But you definitely need fourth gear for the right-hander we just went round. Then it's up to you if you want to go up to fifth or hold fourth. You flat out through those two, but this right-hander you will need to lift, bit of brake, slow the car down so you can hug the right-hand side, lift off the throttle and straddle the curb to avoid running wide. Now we're absolutely flat out into the last few corners, and to be honest, you're only going to need limited gear changes here. Before the pit entry finishes, one downshift to fourth, through the corners, off the throttle, on the brakes, one downshift to third, and then we're through the corners. So it's as simple as that. Minimal downshifts, or down and up shifts. Right, let's see if we can do that at some speed now. Okay, so turn 1 is just a flat out kink into turn 2 and 3, the chicane. Don't brake late here. You can take these corners in third gear, brake at about before the second total board. I've gone through there a bit nasty, but I'll show you better in a minute. Okay, so third gear down the hill. We are going to need to slow down a little bit and go down to third for this left-hander. If you don't, it will run wide, but once we've got it turned in, we can go flat out and back up the gears. We're in fourth gear now. You can sometimes take this corner flat out, but you're better off doing a little lift before you turn in and making sure you don't run wide, because if you run wide in the race again and again and again, you could end up getting a penalty. Let's put it this way, if I see you doing it in front of me or behind me, I'm reporting your ass. Right, now as I mentioned, as we're heading down the straight here, we need to look for that 300 meter marker board. That's all I'm interested in. Okay, here it comes. So 3, 2, about 150, I'm fully on the brakes. The car's got a little bit twitchy, and that's because the left rear wheel was just over the white line. Okay, now because I didn't realise I was over the white line, I went full brakes, but because I had a wheel over the line, that's what caused it to get twitchy. If you are going to go over the line, you do need to avoid going full brakes. I'll see if I can show it down here. Okay, look for the 300. So 3, 2, brake. So nowhere near full brakes, but the car was stable for me. But I can't push an entry using the whole width of the road there. So you kind of have to make the decision. Do you want the stability of braking and being able to brake fully, or are you going to be gentle on your brakes and use the maximum width of the road? Now literally as soon as you're at the apex of that hairpin, you can go full throttle and come out of the corner. You just need to make sure that you are on the brakes by the apex point of the kink. If you're behind other cars, you're going to have to brake a touch sooner as well. But bear in mind, if you've got a car in front of you and they've got a car in front of them, then the car in front of you's got to brake early, so you've got to brake earlier than early to not hit them. Okay, so going to do a little lift off before we get to the apex curb, so that we can be on the brakes and can take this corner in third. And nicely done. Brake before the curb. A long way before the curb. Preferably about the 50-metre marker board. But people are going to ignore that. They're not going to see it. It's not easy to see. Okay, now we're heading up to the Porsche curve. So I'm going to try and hold it fourth gear through majority of it. But we need to kind of look out for that AstroTurf, because we need to be lifting off. So the AstroTurf on the left, it's a bit out of view at the moment, coming in now. Now I know the car's making the corner and I can just keep it absolutely floored in fourth gear. It'll go up to 126 in fourth. Now I want to lift off and let the car slow down so that I can hold tight and then lift off the throttle to try and straddle the curb, and then we're back on the full throttle again. So I made that whole section very, very easy with just having one downshift. Brake before the pit entry ends. I've gone down 2 gears there, didn't mean to, it's fourth gear. Then on the brakes for third gear, and you really can push it through the final couple of corners. So I have tried to make it as simple as possible with as minimal amount of gear changes. That'll help with your tyres, it'll help with the fuel, it'll help with your consistency. Right, turn 1. So brake just after the first total board. Third gear, use the curb, full throttle, easy. Right, lift, bit of brakes, third gears, get it turned in and we can get back on the power. A lot of people just carry too much speed into that first part and end up all out of shape. Nice little lift, and it is only a tiny lift on just before turning in for the right hander there. It's just to guarantee that you make the apex and do not run wide. Okay, this time I'm going to try and avoid dipping 2 wheels over the side of the road. And I'm looking again for that 300 metre marker board. There's one on the right, one on the left. 3, 2, brake. And then you see I'm patient, I'm not on the throttle until I'm through the left hander. Okay, so I'm not on the throttle again once I've been on the brakes until I'm part way through the left-hander and I'm able to drive out the corner. The reason for that is the temptation is to brake for the corner and then go, oh, I can accelerate here, but then you got to brake for the left-hander. Now you're going slower. Okay, looking for that 300 meters. So 3, 2, brake. Able to go full brakes. So by being not 2 wheels over the white line, I was able to go full brakes then, but actually probably slowed down for the corner too much. So I could stay in that position and brake a hell of a lot less and carry more speed into the corner, but still braking at the same point and having that stability. Okay, brake at the kink. Don't mind getting a little bit sideways there. As I mentioned before as well, keeping the wheel straight can gain you so much time, because every time you turn the wheel you're losing a little bit of acceleration. Okay, so now we've got the kink. I love these corners myself. Now you can try going into it flat out and then being on the brakes. It can be done, but if you get the tiniest little bit out of shape, you're having a big crash. Okay, so once again, as we come up to the Porsche curves, the process is try and spot that AstroTurf. That lets you know when to do your lift off, get it down to 4th gear, get the front end turned in, and then you should know whether it's going to hold or not. Astro. And if it isn't holding, like it wasn't there, I went in too quick and it starts sliding, it's an easy fix. Just don't get on the throttle yet. Lift for this right-hander, and again, if it is sliding too much, just don't get back on the throttle yet, because if you do, it's only going to slide out wider. It's going to slide more. Okay, brake before the end of the pit entry. Oh, too much curb. And try and not get reset. Now you do have to make sure that you don't take as much curb as I just did then. Otherwise you end up spinning like a knobhead. But hopefully though, hopefully there I've been able to show a few things that people may have been or may struggle with. So I am going to just quickly go back out there to try and show down the main straights again. Because I was actively trying to sort of not put my wheels over the white line, so now I'm going to show what happens when I fully do. Now in faster cars that have got a hell of a lot more downforce, you can kind of get away with using all of the road, but if you're in fast cars that have got no downforce, you're going to struggle braking off the actual road itself. So I know it's not necessarily obvious the effect that putting your wheels over this white line will have, but basically that part of the road is dirty, so my left tyres are getting dirtier and dirtier and dirtier, and when it comes to actually hitting the brakes, there's more chance of my left tyres sliding on the dirty part. 300, 200, brake. So even though I braked at the normal point, I'm all out of shape, because even though I was fully on the brakes, the car wasn't wanting to slow down and it was sliding. and when I came to turn in, I got no grip on the left hand side of my car. Okay, let's look for that 300. 3, 2, brake. So all out of shape there, just because I was over the white line. Now, as soon as I hit the brakes, I was actually having to steer right to keep the car straight, because the car was pitching to the left. Now, you may not have seen it, but that is what happened. To go back and check, you'll see the red dot would have been pointed to the right a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to go over the line on the left here. And I can't stop. So even though I braked at the same point that I had done for the previous laps, I couldn't get the car slowed down and make the corner, simply because it's dirty out there. So there we go, done. Easy-ish, kind of. But to be fair, in this car is a very good car for teaching you about getting around this track. Because although there are a lot of corners and there's a lot of twisty bits, you don't have to be going up and down the gears and on and off the brakes. You can do it all smoothly. It's not like driving around Monaco or anything like that, or the Nürburgring, or Nordschleife, I should say. Okay, that's this little video done. So have a good one, enjoy, hope this helps. I'll see you in a bit.